Most people think that history is just memorizing a bunch of names and dates and facts. And even though that is an important part of history, in our class, one thing that we really stress a lot is engaging with primary sources and evidence. So in our class, our students act like investigators or detectives in which they're trying to solve a mystery that's usually around some kind of historical essential question. By engaging with these primary sources, it develops a lot of critical thinking skills that are really important for our students to be lifelong learners.
When a lot of students think about history, they often have this perception that it's going to be something very ancient or from the past. But I think US history this year has been compelling for me because we've drawn a lot of parallels from past events to current events or even just recent events in general. So that's been interesting to look at.
One of the things that's really important to me as a history teacher and as a department leader is that our students need to see themselves in the curriculum. So they need to learn and read stories about their region. They need to be able to see men and women in the narratives that look like them, have had similar experiences in a variety of ways, people that they can relate to. I think we've tried to make our courses deeper rather than wider. So that depth has allowed us to focus on things that are more immediate concern. Again, focusing on narratives, on events, developments that are more relatable.
In AP history courses, they focus less on the sort of like the minutia of different historical events and would go for more a broad set of historical trends and sort of identifying what the broad sweeping changes across timeframes were. Once you have a general idea or a well-informed idea of the history of something, you can sort of understand why it is the way it is right now.
How to get people that young to have the imagination to place themselves somewhere else, and then to have the imagination to kind of understand how different places can be from each other is interesting. And then balancing that with a sense of, well, they're all human beings and there certain responses they have are going to be the same.
And I think for me, what I do to make history more approachable is like kind of making it seem like a fictional or almost like a fictional story, and like kind of going along with that rather than just like simply looking at it as like just like these like series of events.
One of the most important skills, I think, for especially AP history courses is the synthesis of multiple perspectives. And what it teaches you to do is take different bits of different things and make a holistic, sort of well-informed thesis. Generally, it's important to be able to and be in the practice of taking multiple perspectives into account when making any decision. I think that's a valuable thing to understand in history.
As a teacher, I can start by saying, here's the context, here's the chain of events, here's a background on all these authors, and you can do it like that. And I think sometimes as teachers, we think that that's teaching well, and it is. But I think it's also teaching well to throw those sources on the table and say, hey, what do you think the relationship is between like the drop in the textile market in 1929 and like American economic policy and this textbook in Taiwan? What could possibly be the link between those things? I think both of those approaches will work perfectly well, but which one, as the teacher, what classroom do you want to be in? And then as the student, what classroom do you want to be in? This is kind of the conversation.
A lot of times when kids are engaging with the primary sources, there are gaps in the sources. The sources do not, it's like I tell the kids, it's like putting together a puzzle and you don't have all the puzzle pieces. And they learn that you have to take your best judgment to fill in the gaps of the evidence and to help tell that narrative. They quickly learn, like, you can't just guess, right? You need to contextualize the history. You have to maybe find some other evidence that might corroborate a potential judgment that you might have on that gap in that story. And again, it all comes back to, how can we replicate what a historian is doing in the classroom so the kids can understand and learn those really valuable skills.
I think one thing that I learned was to like work with group members, which is almost counterintuitive in a history class where you would be expected to maybe write essays, critically analyze. But it's been interesting to talk with my peers who have their own experiences, and that kind of contributes to their perspective.
In ninth grade EAS, we do a thing called Socratic seminar for every unit. So what we do is on various historic events like the Opium War, we just talk about our opinions on what various factors started these historic events. And I think a Socratic seminar is a great way to include other people. Mr. Wali does a great job just like allowing a lot of people to talk. So I think I get to hear like everyone's perspective and it just helps me learn more.
So there's the pre-process for the Socratic, and then there's the moment of the Socratic itself, and then after the Socratic, there's a kind of evaluation of what happened and what didn't happen, and then kind of going back and doing that cycle again.
Mr. Wali just gives us like a broad idea of what's happening historically, and we get to make our own inferences. It's more about discussing and expressing your opinion and your perspective on like a historical event. I enjoy EAS because I can personally connect it to myself.
Engaging with evidence and interpreting data is a thing that's not just applicable to history. It's something that they're going to have to do in many different fields, no matter what it is.
Some of the skills that we've learned are like application skills or like critical thinking skills. So rather than just learning about the history or like things itself, we can apply it to different classes. Like, for example, in our AP Lang class, I've been using these skills.
The ability to contextualize, the ability to synthesize, and the ability to sort of understand general trends across decades is a way to quell alarmism, not get it wrapped up into sensationalism. You need to understand the past of an object or of a thing to understand its present and then its future, right? You need context for everything.
When they're scrolling through their social media, whether it's Twitter or TikTok or whatever, they are constantly barraged with, news articles or, tweets from politicians. And it's really important that our students have these really important life skills to be able to decipher, is this a source of, political rhetoric that's trying to sway me a certain way. We even sometimes will pull up some information, like if I see something on the news, or if I see whether it's something on social media, we'll look at it and we'll analyze it, and we'll ask the kids to use the skills that they've learned in class and apply it to this thing that's actually happening in real life. Who's writing this source? Why are they writing it? Who's their intended audience? Showing kids that history is more than just knowing when Abraham Lincoln was born or something like that, and that these skills are actually going to be important in your life is a really important thing for me as a teacher, because I want kids to see the value in history beyond the classroom.